Hi, welcome to Truth or Talk. I'm April Bowden.
And I'm Virstyne Henry.
And today's show, Virstyne and I are going to be interviewing each other. This is our very first episode, and we're excited to launch it, but we want to get to know everybody out there. And so how we're going to start off is by letting you know who we are and why we care about this project and why we're interested in this and why we opened up our store at truthertees.com, where you can go check out in a couple of weeks. We'll have our first T-shirt available for purchase. But right now we're going to be starting off with this radio show, that Truth or Talk, and we're very excited to get going and to interview each other. Virstyne is a good friend. We've been friends for a long time. We've been wanting to do this project for a while. She's a writer. She's worked as an actress. She's an aspiring polyglot. She speaks a few languages now. You speak what, Chinese?
Oh, well, I speak, I've been pretty good in Spanish. My Spanish is pretty solid. It still needs improvement, but I'm learning Chinese. I'm not there yet. I can say phrases, I can understand. I'm not it's going to be a minute, but I'm studying Chinese right now, so it's pretty awesome, pretty fascinating language, yeah.
So she's living overseas in Taiwan. You're an American overseas at the moment.
Yes, I'm living in Taoyuan, which is about 45 minutes outside of Taipei, and I'm teaching English and travel writing, and yeah, it's an amazing experience. It's the best thing that I've ever done in my life. So very, very grateful. I'm having a lot of fun. So April, yeah, and where are you? Where are you, April? Where are you living nowadays?
I'm living in California, beautiful, sunny Southern California, and that's where I am. And I'm, working also, as you know, I'm also a writer and working on this with you. That's what I've been doing.
I know we've been working a lot. We're like workaholics, but not getting paid.
No, but it's so much fun though. We're having a good time. It's a labor of love, and we're really excited. So, Virstyne, you're going to interview me. Why don't you go ahead and start? Let me have it. Let me know what you're going to.
Okay, so
I don't know what she's going to ask me.
Are you ready for this jelly? Are you ready?
I am.
To handle it? I don't know, man. I asked some tough questions. Okay. So I guess the first thing I would like to know is how did you start your awakening, or how did you start to awaken? Like, what was your process like? So go in depth about that for me.
Well, it was a long process, I think, because even as a kid, my father was a very politically astute man, and he would spend hours reading the newspaper and talking about things. And I remember being very little, and that politics was always talked about in my home, and my dad would get very heated and upset, and I said, well, Dad, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? And he said to me, I'm neither. I don't choose based on the party or the category a person puts themselves in, but rather who they are as an individual. And I wanted a more concrete answer. I wanted it to be like black and white. And he gave me this sort of open-ended thing. So that was something that always stuck in my head. And so when I was older and I started being of voting age myself, that was always in my mind, of trying to find the truth about who the individual is rather than just categorize people and then, align yourself with some sort of category. So I was always kind of searching for my own individuality, for, because he was big on not being labeled. He was always big on, having just being seen as a person for who he was and not being called something. And, he used to love the Grateful Dead, but he hated it when they would call him a deadhead. He was like, no, I'm not a deadhead. And so there was always that, now my dad was influential on me in that way. And just over the years, I just started learning more and more about, just questioning things that were going on around me. And then, of course, the big awakening, sort of the big tipping point, was a few years ago when my son was diagnosed with autism, because he was vaccinated. I do believe his autism was a result of vaccine damage. I do think my son is vaccine damaged. Autism is a label. It's not necessarily it's a poor diagnosis, I would say, and we'll talk about that more when we have our guests on that are going to go into details about vaccines and autism, but as far as my awakening went, it was an awakening that I didn't really want to have, but it was because it was painful to watch him regress from a normal child into autism. And so that was something that was blatantly obvious, that either the people in the status quo and the doctors think that either they didn't know or they didn't care, or they just didn't bother to look into that this was actually happening. Because a lot of people had told me that they questioned vaccines and autism, but nobody. But it was always like another mom or another person. I think, and then you even talked to me about a family member, and so I was.
I mean, you know what? At the time, because I have an autistic cousin, and at the time, I thought it was just like, oh, she just had an allergic reaction. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, that just happens sometimes. So wow, that's just bad luck. At the time, that's what I thought. I never thought that the ingredients in the vaccines and would have an effect on people, but I mean, it's on a greater scale. It's not just like one. It's not like random chance, It's,
yes.
And I guess that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, it's a random chance he randomly got, but I didn't know the details, about exactly what happened,
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I didn't really understand that either, because I had actually, even a nurse had said something to me one time, and she had sort of made it out that you had to have this genetic predisposition to autism. And so my thought when she said that was, well, we don't have anybody in our family with autism, so we don't have a genetic predisposition. I think there's a lot of confusion about what it is, and it's really just a symptom. It's just a reaction to this toxicity, which is usually brought on by the vaccines. I mean, there are other causes. I'm not going to say it, because anytime you say, well, autism is caused by vaccines, you'll have a bunch of people say, well, I didn't vaccinate my kid, or that wasn't the case for me, or whatever. Fine. But for most people that I've talked to that have children with autism, that's the case.
Oh, it's growing, And here it's growing. I actually went to an art gallery. I went as press, and I did some interviews on some of the artists and the writers at this big art exhibit that happened maybe a couple of weeks ago. And some of the artists there were autistic, and they work with autistic artists, and which, by the way, their paintings are amazing. I didn't even know that they were autistic until I started talking to the gallery owner, and they did they gave me a write-up on their company and what they were about, and they were saying that it's rising. It's currently rising here, and I'm sure it has to do with some sort of toxicity. I don't know. If it's all vaccines, but I know like the environment vaccines and all this. I mean, it's just like drops in the bucket that just keep adding up. So it's not, it's something that's growing. It's not anything that's going to be going away soon.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just keeps getting worse. We're being sprayed all the time with chemicals. We're being chemicals in our food and chemicals everywhere.
And GMOs.
And but when you inject it into a young child, my son Aiden we're working with a homeopathic doctor to reverse his vaccine damage, and she tells me she's reviewing his vaccine records, and she says, at 5.5 months, he was given 8 vaccines in one day.
Oh.
I was like, wow. You don't even think about that at the time, because you're looking at the number of injections, but some of these have 2 or 3 different viruses in one vial. And that's a very unnatural way. Yeah. How they're expecting immunity to come from that is, once you start to understand what they're really trying to do, or what they claim to be trying to do, you're like, that doesn't make sense. It's completely illogical. Yeah. How can you expect to inject someone with 3 viruses and they'll become immune to them?
And they're small. They're tiny. There's tiny little creatures that are just, you know. And you know the thing that's really infuriating about that? Like, I'm sure as a parent you thought you were doing the right thing, you know, because you're told, you're like, oh, you know, vaccinate your child because you don't want them to get the measles and the mumps and, you know, whatever, hepatitis B, even though he's not having sex because he's I don't know, like 3 hours old. You know, like it's, you know, and in society we have this blind is it call it like a blind faith, for lack of a better word. I know there's a better word in my head, but I can't find it right now. So I'm just going to say like blind faith towards, you know, doctors. And you know, we do what we're told. When they tell us to do something, we do it because we're like, oh, this person has spent a lot of time and money and in going to school to learn all of this sophisticated knowledge, and you know, we kind of think that we hold them higher, like we kind of worship them, like they're better than us, you know, instead of equal to us. They're people too, you know. They make mistakes. They're basically just regurgitating information that they've learned, you know. I mean, they're not taught the right information, you know. And I mean, I love doctors. I don't have anything against doctors. I've had some really great experiences with allopathic doctors, but I think, you know, when I've had my health problems, I think that they were trying to help me the best way that they knew how. They weren't trying to injure me or or, you know, like prolong my illness, but yeah, as a mother, you're told to do this because you want to protect your child. You want to do the right thing. You want to get them vaccinated. You want to, you know, keep them healthy. But you know, so moving on, I want to know. So your son is autistic. You had that awakening, and then how did it tie into other things?
Well, it was once he was diagnosed, I started doing a lot of research on how to heal him. Originally, I did feel that his autism was caused by the vaccines, but I didn't care to really go down that rabbit hole. I really just wanted him to get better at first. And then the more that I was reading how to help him, I couldn't help but to see it kept going back to the vaccines. It kept going back to the vaccines. And I would go to these conferences and I'd go to these workshops and I'd hear other parents talking about it, and you know, and my heart was just aching. I felt that I understood everything that they were going through, and they were in as much pain as I was, and we were all going through this together. And so more and more I kept looking into vaccines. I kept looking into, you know, what they were doing, and as I started to see that it wasn't just autism, that there were so many illnesses that were being caused by this. I mean, and there was I read Jenny McCarthy's book. She had a book, her original book, which was about her own personal experience, I read, but then she had another one that she did right after that called Mother Warriors, and she interviews all these parents, all moms, one dad, and she interviews them or about their children, and they all had the same experience of having a normal child, and then the child would be vaccinated and they would regress into autism. And the final story was this family. She interviewed both the mother and father, and they had that experience, but he was starting to recover. This is a boy named Elijah. He was starting to recover from autism, actually, after having regressed after vaccination. And I forget what exactly triggered it, but it was at some point he went into cardiac arrest and he went into the hospital and he died. And it hit me really hard because it was something that I was kind of aware of, but it was sort of peripheral. I was still really focused on Aiden and trying not to distract myself by the things that were happening around me. But it sort of hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt very angry, and I was really wanting to. I didn't feel that it was that I could just sort of not look into it anymore. I didn't feel like I could just sort of work with Aiden. I didn't think that was enough anymore. I had to sort of explore outwards and sort of see what this was. And so the more I went into the vaccine rabbit hole, I saw that it was connected to so many other things. And then I watched this video on YouTube of Bill Gates at the TED conference.
Oh.
And I saw Bill Gates, our favorite person, Bill Gates.
Oh.
Yeah,
Barb.
the Antichrist.
I hate him.
Well, we all do. I mean, no, I mean, there are people that love him.
Anyway, sorry.
But I saw him talking about this, and he was talking about vaccines being used for reducing the population. And he was tying that into the whole global warming thing, which was like, oh, well, we need to reduce carbon dioxide so that we can reduce this global warming effect, and therefore we need to reduce the population of people because people produce carbon dioxide. And so it just sounded like such a load of crap that it just sort of triggered something in my head, and all of a sudden I went, oh my God, and all these things started, which I describe as like a domino effect. I could suddenly see everything just sort of connect to each other, and it was like, oh, global warming, I get it. Oh, 9/11, I get it. It was like just suddenly hit me, and it was all tied into the vaccine thing, and I said, oh, maybe this isn't just about money. Maybe this isn't an accident. Maybe this is actually eugenics, and they're actually trying to reduce the population.
Because somebody, I think it was Dr. Blaylock, and he's awesome. He said either these people are incredibly stupid, like incredibly, or they know exactly what they're doing,
Right. Right, exactly, and that's kind of, and he sort of tells you, Bill Gates just comes right out and says, this is what I'm doing. I mean, he's an open depopulist. It's clear that he wants to reduce the population, and the reasons for doing that are fairly questionable. So whether or not it's actually necessary to do that, whether or not, he's going about it in the right way. Anyway, you know how I feel about that guy.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how I feel about him too.
Right. We don't love Bill Gates over here. But anyway, but it helped me in that way. It's funny how it wasn't somebody who's actually trying to, I don't know, it wasn't another truther, it wasn't another, it wasn't Alex Jones, it wasn't
like a guy with a hole in the ground, right? Like I think people that think that we get our ideals from like a dude that just pops up from a hole in the ground and he like tells us this random stuff and we believe it. Yeah, I'm sorry, but go on, yeah.
No, I mean, somebody posted that on Facebook. They posted that quote that Bill Gates said about how he was using vaccines to reduce the population. And I saw a lot of comments that other people had that were saying that they thought it was a fake quote. I was like, well, just go look at it yourself. He said, I mean, it's easy to find. It's all over YouTube and everywhere else. But people didn't even want to believe it, that he could actually say that we were going to reduce the population by using vaccines. And I think, he was being honest. I think he was telling the truth, and it's clearly, whether he's, like Blaylock says, I mean, whether it's the plan, it's what's happening, it's the result.
Yeah.
So
and nobody seems to really care about it because they can, if they really want to look into it, they can do something about it. Like they can do something about poverty, about war,
Yeah.
All this stuff that we're quote unquote suffering from can really be fixed. It's not like a secret anymore, When I was younger, I would question these things. Oh, why are there wars? Or, oh no, there's so many people starving. Why don't they have food? And then you realize it's because somebody it's like somebody broke into your house and they steal all your food and you turn off your water, knock down your walls.
Right.
And then they say, oh, look at you, you're dirty and you're starving and you're poor. It's like starving people, they need give them some shovels and some seeds, give them some clean water, get out, stuff like chopping down the trees and stuff. They'll be straight. They'll be cool. They don't need vaccines. Right. It's so weird. You think about it, it's weird,
It's very weird. And the whole, it's very weird how it was just like a year ago that the Malawi News said that they were taking people in droves and vaccinating them at gunpoint. So here these people don't even want it.
Yeah. And
they're being forced to do it. And that's the other thing, too, is that once you start seeing something that they're being so forced into and so pressured, you have to question, well, why? Why are you forcing this on me? Why can't I choose?
Why are you even over there in somebody's country in the first place when they're not asking for your help, too?
Exactly. Right, exactly. And even they are, like you said.
Starving. Well, to have this vaccine, Like, take this vaccine.
Right.
You know, it's like,
yeah, we're hungry. Give us the vaccine. And then they give you the GMO seeds instead of just organic seeds, which can actually reproduce. So you can give them the organic seeds and then leave. Whereas with the GMOs, you constantly have to, come back because GMOs don't reproduce. So they're crazy. So Gates himself, in his own, arrogance, in just basically explaining his plan, helped me reach my awakening, because I could see, and then it was this kind of like, it was on like Donkey Kong. I was just done. I was down the rabbit hole, one way ticket. I couldn't turn back at that point, because then it was, I wanted to know more about 9/11. I had already kind of wasn't believing the official story at that point. I didn't really know anything about it, but it just sounded weird, because I was watching this documentary on the History Channel a few years earlier, and they were saying that, just the details of it just were weird. They were like, well, these guys, they had plastic knives and box cutters and things like that, and I'm going, what? That's what they had? That's how they took down these planes? Like, it struck me as odd. And then once you hear about Building 7, it's kind of like it's all over with, Yeah. So when World Trade Center 7 goes down, and it's completely impossible unless it was demolished, it's done with. You still believe the official story after that, then I don't know what to tell you.
And then we go to war, like right after, like war, like full on, like war.
Right, and not even with the people. The hijackers weren't even. Anyway, I don't even want to get into the. We'll have 9/11 experts on.
With all the technology that we have to go to war. We can't just like use our like satellite cameras and like track down the terrorists. You know what I mean? We have to send like droves of people in to like find Al Qaeda. Anyway.
I know, and we didn't even go to war with Afghanistan. We went to war with Iraq. Right?
Yeah.
And then the supposed hijackers were like Saudis. It's just the whole thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Because when you first see the spectacle, and you have that fear like everybody else, you don't question, because you're existing in that state of fear. And then once you start to actually, when they explain to me, History Channel, which has always supported the official story, they have people come on to debunk the conspiracy theorists all the time.
Yeah.
People, popular mechanics, and they come on, they just lie. But
they just lie.
But so they're trying to tell me the official story, and I'm going, wait a minute, that sounds stupid. That sounds crazy. It doesn't make sense. So
I would like to know. I'm sorry. Go on. Go ahead.
So I had that in my head, and then as soon as I saw the Bill Gates thing, it was just like, everything just. I just could see it all.
You're like, game over.
It was like game over. I could see this was all about population reduction, and that's what it was. We're reducing the population. We're creating an empire. We're controlling the planet, and we're going to control them by controlling. It just was very clear to me. So
I was curious. Was there ever a time before you had the experience with your son and with the research that you've done that's led you back to like your realization about population control? Was there ever a time where other people tried to tell you, not including your father, but other people tried to tell you about the inner workings of the world, and it just didn't like sink in, and were you ever that annoying person? that's kind of like on the other side of where you are, the one that makes like smart comments and like makes comments on stuff about things that they don't know anything about. Were you ever that person?
I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe. I can't say I remember any specifics where I was that person. Where I was like that. I'm sure that I didn't really. I don't know. I didn't really follow the 9/11 was an inside job people, so I didn't really know what their rantings were about. I didn't disbelieve them or believe them initially. I just kind of was like, oh, well, maybe. So I can't say that I ever was that person that I can recall. I don't know. You tell me. Do you ever remember me doing anything like that?
No. I mean, I think we kind of woke up around the same time, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
I remember having people that would tell me. I remember dating this guy, and he was. Now that I think of it, he was pretty awake, but he just had a lot of anger. That I would just close to anything they had to say, because I felt like everything that I was doing, he was criticizing me or making me wrong for doing something. So I didn't want it. I just shut off. I didn't want to, And I had other people. Now that I think about it, I had other people to come in and tell me stuff, and it's sinking in now. Now that I know all this stuff, like all the dots are like going, like the domino effect is all like, oh, I remember, because I have a very long memory. I remember stuff, but at the time I was just like, what? And I never really laughed at anybody, and I'm not quick to call anybody crazy. I always like, oh, that's interesting, because I do believe that anything's possible. My dad's always been good about, like, kind of opening me up to the fact that anything is possible, good or bad. And but I just didn't see how. People are like, oh, the Illuminati, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I guess they're evil people that want to run the world. There was Hitler, and
sure,
I guess that, like I would think that, but I'm like, oh, but that doesn't happen now. People aren't evil, and we took care of that. That's over done with, So like I kind of remember I worked with this girl, and she would tell me stuff about holistic medicine and certain things, and I just would like, what? Like I'd make little snide jokes, but I wasn't like being condescending. I'm just playful like that. I like to mess with people and play with them, But now I'm like, wow, if I ever see her again, I really have to apologize, because she was trying to really tell me some sound serious stuff, and I just wasn't open. I guess you have to be ready too,
Yeah.
So
I think go ahead.
Oh, so knowing that too, I wanted to know, did you ever have any anger about, once you're awake and you kind of see everything and how everything works, do you have any anger about the system, or did you? You don't seem to be angry now. You don't seem to have a lot of anger, but did you at first?
I think, yeah, for sure. I mean, when I first had that opening, I felt that there was this urgency to know more. I couldn't control how much. I mean, it was an addiction. I wanted to know as much as possible and learn as much as possible and read as much as possible. And I was frustrated because I would want to share these things with people, and it seemed like I received a lot of rejection of people not wanting to hear about it or not wanting to be open to it. And I was going, but look, they're trying to kill us.
Yeah, totally. It's like the horror movie where like the girl goes into the house where the monster is, and you're like, no, and you're like, go out the back, and she like goes upstairs.
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly. And so that's what I was trying to do. I was like shouting, like, there's the killer, there's Jason right there behind the door, and no one wanted to hear it. And so I was frustrated. I was definitely angry, and I was definitely confused and wanting to know what I was going to do. How was I going to raise my kids? How was I going to? And so it did feel like a process of having to go through that awakening where I wanted to learn everything. And then the more that I was learning, the more frustrated and angry I was becoming. But then the more I couldn't help myself. Like I was just, I wanted more, more. I couldn't get enough. I was like, tell me more about the FEMA camps. Tell me more about this.
Totally.
Everything was just, because we were doing this together. We were talking to each other all the time.
But yeah, it's consuming. I'm still consumed with it. I think now it's more, it's healthy, because now, we're channeling our energy into something, and into taking what we've learned and trying to share it and trying to, just basically it's healthy. I think it's a healthy addiction, because you feel like when you feel like you've been lied to, basically. We've been lied to, basically. Mm-hmm. And you basically just have to re-educate yourself. And I actually like to learn. I hated school, but I like to learn. So I don't mind learning. It's great. It keeps you, it gets me up in the morning. It keeps me, I feel like there's this fire that has just been ignited inside of me that nobody can really extinguish. It's like going, and it's getting bigger and badder and stuff.
No, I would agree, and I think that's what this project is all about. That we're doing is that, because we did start off angry and frustrated. I remember we would talk on the phone for hours and hours, And we'd always say like, okay, what's going on? What do you know? What have you heard about the NWO today? What's going on in New World Order news?
I would get. I'm sorry. Go on.
Go ahead.
No, well, I was gonna say. The thing about me is because I taught children at the time, and I would just look at them and I'd just be like, this is the world that we're leaving them. I would just get so, I don't have children of my own. I would like to one day, but I would just, one thing too would just really drive me was just like looking at the innocence of the children, and they're so beautiful and they're so honest. They're like us in our purest form, and they're tiny, and I would just get so angry about like these sons of mother truckers don't I have to curve the mouth, right? This is a family friendly show.
Right.
But they don't care. How can they hurt these beings? I mean, hurt us too. I love people, but just children are just so like just fragile and innocent and perfect, and just who would do this? Who would? Why? Why?
Right.
It's
true, and then they just don't value human life at all. Mm-hmm. And once you start finding out who these people are and they do horrible things to children, and that's and I would look at my kids and the same feeling, just very protective and wanting to know how can anyone not see these beings as just other than precious and valuable, but they don't care about us, or they just don't care about human life. It's not even necessarily personal. It's just like, well, yeah, but you're just in my way for acquiring power, or whatever it is that they want, but they obviously they don't care about children. They don't care about human lives, and we do as people. So we find that hard to fathom. And how can anyone actually think that way and feel that way and not care?
Well, I want to know one thing else. I want to know, knowing what you know, how many friends have you lost or gained? Have you lost a lot of friends and gained some along the way?
Yeah, I did. I had, I think the 9/11 thing, because a lot of my friends that I've acquired over the last few years have been other parents of autistic children who know that their children were vaccine damaged. Mm. So that part of it wasn't as difficult to talk to my friends about because we were already kind of on the same page. But then once I started connecting it to depopulation, some of them got kind of scared and sort of, squeaked off a little bit.
Yeah.
And then certainly my other views, like about 9/11 and other things, caused a rift with some of my friends. It really just depends on how open the mind is. But I did have some people not want to be my friend anymore because of that. And one in particular that kind of hurt.
Yeah, it's painful sometimes too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and that was her issue, was the 9/11 thing.
Oh, wow.
I had wrote an essay on I think you read that, the essay that I wrote about when I talked to my older son.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
Yeah, about when he had come home from school with the official story of 9/11 and how I tried to guide him to sort of question it rather than tell him that I questioned it or that I didn't believe it. I sort of made an effort to sort of get him to kind of look at it from a different angle, and he did. It's kind of funny.
That's awesome.
So, an 8-year-old.
He's a very astute kid, though. He's a smart chickadee.
Right.
Yeah.
But I posted that up on Facebook, and I had a friend, somebody not want to be my friend anymore afterwards, and so that kind of hurt because I thought it's just your belief. You don't have to believe everything the same as your friends do, and you read it too. I mean, how often do you meet somebody that you believe everything exactly the same way? It's just, it's close to impossible.
There's some people that just really want, they can't handle people like not agreeing with them. They have to be in agreement with them for everything. I mean, even my cousin, we will talk about stuff, and she's pretty awake in some ways, but we cross lines when we talk about Obama, but we have to get to a point where we have to agree to disagree, because she's a huge Obama supporter and I'm not anymore, and anymore I was, but I love her so much. She's a great person. and I'm not gonna let it get to the point where we're like cursing each other out and calling each other names. Some people I'll do that too, but not my cousin. Not her, you know, like some people I don't care if you tick me off, I will go there with you, but I don't pick fights with people. But I'll defend myself, you know. So but yeah, let me.
I've made friends too, like you said. I mean, I feel like you lose some.
Yeah.
Because some people are just, and they just can't accept. Maybe it's just too painful. Maybe it's just too painful to look at that, and because, you know, that's something I believe or I see. I mean, this one particular person who didn't want to be my friend anymore about the 9/11 thing, she never wanted to talk to me about it. She never wanted to approach me about it. Nothing. She just cut me off. And so I think that it must have just been way too painful for her to really look at that. And so she didn't want to hear what I had to say about it. She didn't want to try to be anyone to try to convince her otherwise from what she believed. Yeah. And so she just cut that off. But on the other hand, I have met a lot of people who I'm friends with, and I think we look for each other because it helps keep us sane, and we know we can talk to people who understand, and we still don't have to agree on everything, but we can, you know, we're closer, and we can talk about things and not have to sit there and convince people.
Totally.
You know, win them over because we already know.
Yeah. A lot of people lose friends. Like I've lost friends, and it's very painful. It's very, you know, especially like I've lost I've lost a friend. We were friends about 6-7 years, and I thought we'd probably be friends forever, you know, for a while, and over my newfound beliefs. And I thought that I wrote an article about it too. I wrote an essay about it too. But you know, I just I felt like when she was aware of some of my beliefs, and I wasn't even trying to force my ideals on her, but she just couldn't. I felt like her and her boyfriend just couldn't have anything to do with me. They couldn't just associate, you know, like associate with me, you know, because of what because I didn't agree with him, you know. Anyway, that's a whole nother truth to talk. So I think I'm almost done. I guess
let's start with.
Okay, well, wait. Well, I want to ask you. One more. How do you keep yourself positive, knowing all the evil secrets that you know?
It's interesting that you say that, because it's almost like once you I think a lot about. I mean, we love film and we love movies and we love talking about art and things like that. And I always think about The Matrix or Gattaca or the They Live, the John Carpenter.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, I got it. Yes.
It's like you walk around and you feel like you see the world differently. You can suddenly see the presence, the new world, as Henry Kissinger would say.
It permeates everything.
It permeates everything. It permeates in your teacher, so you know it permeates the education system.
Definitely.
It permeates, you know, I mean, like I go through the grocery store and I see the presence of the New World Order. I mean, every time I say it, I have to say it, try and sound like Kissinger. But anyway, so.
Brzezinski? Wait, Brzezinski.
Huh?
Is it Brzezinski?
No, I'm sounding like Henry Kissinger.
Oh, I don't know how you sound.
The guy sounds like he's really old. He's just anyway. He's one of those. So, yeah, I see it everywhere, and I'm sorry. What was your question again? How do I be positive?
It's okay.
I got sidetracked when I was talking about.
We're gonna have a lot of fun on the show, listeners. So,
that's the veil comes down.
I just want to
stop me. Don't tell them how to stay positive.
Positive.
That's what you heard.
Just how do you keep yourself positive, knowing all the evil secrets? Because I feel like I liken this, honestly, you know, to the Kubler-Ross model of the 5 stages of grief, you know, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I feel like a lot of people, they start to understand this, you know. First is denial, and then a lot of people just kind of get stuck in anger for a while, and they don't move past anger, or they get into or they move past anger, then they get into like bargaining. They're like, oh, they have so much power. Oh my God, we're trucked, we're fracked.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? And then and then they get like sad, and they drink and they smoke a lot of weed, and they're like, oh,
yeah, they
dude,
do.
like,
right.
oh, dude, like it's okay, I'm gonna die, but I'm gonna smoke some weed, And then when if you make it to the other side of acceptance, I actually feel more empowered knowing what I know now, because I feel like you really have a real chance at real peace, at real health, at real harmony when you see how everything is constructed and engineered. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I just want to know, how do you stay positive? Because I feel like once people awake, it's hard for some people to stay positive. Some people. So there's some people that are quote unquote truthers you don't want to be around, because they're just like Debbie Downer like all the time.
Oh yeah.
You're like, dang, like.
Yeah, I find I find a few of those every now and again. These people, and then they want to just tell you everything. You say, well, what about this? And they go, no, you can't do that. They're too powerful. And I just. Yeah. So how I stay positive is, I think I just made a choice not to live in fear.
Yeah.
I said, I'm just not going to be afraid. So I'm going to speak the truth. I'm going to do what I do. And I'm going to grow some vegetables. I'm going to grow some herbs out in my patio. I'm going to do what I can. I can't, I live in an apartment. I can't grow a full garden. But I can grow a little. I can, live my life with some preparation, but not in utter fear. Yeah. I'm not going to go into a closet. I'm just going to continue on and raise my children as I would, as if there will be a tomorrow. Yeah. But then not be afraid if there isn't. Yeah. I know that sounds kind of, I know that's a scary thing for people to accept, but that's what I had to accept. I had to accept that we might not win, but maybe we could.
Oh, we're going to win. They're going to. We're taking me down. I'm going down fighting. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to just lay down and be like, take me. No, you're going to have to, like, you're going to have to pry me off of you and pry the gun out of my hand after I, like, sorry, this is a children's show. I'm sorry.
It's funny that you say that, because when I took a self-defense course one time, and I remember on the very first day, the guy said, you never lie down. Never. You never think, don't ever get it in your mindset that you're going to go, well, if I just give in a little, then he'll let me go and I'll be able to live. No. You fight, you claw, you kick him in the balls, you get out of there.
Yeah.
And you always fight. And so
they can just kill
I always
you
have the mindset.
They can just kill you anyway.
Yeah, I always have exactly. I'm like, I always have the mindset that I'm going to go down fighting. And if it's somebody's going, and maybe he'll be able to overpower me, but maybe not. Because I think that, just removing that fear and walking around with that you're okay and that you're confident, and just I try to take it and look at positive things and try to promote, natural health and just share the things that we've done to help my son Aiden and the rest of the family too has benefited from learning about these things. And so just sticking on that and trying to manifest the world that be the world, as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, definitely. And
so that's it. I'm just living it. And so I had to accept that not everyone was, because at first I wanted everybody to wake up like me.
Yeah.
Wake up, see it, and then that's like the guy with the halo glasses,
Yeah.
See it, and he couldn't get everybody to.
Oh my God, that scene was like 10 minutes. That was like the longest scene. You know what's so funny? Wait, you know what? I'm done. So whenever you're ready, you ask me, and I want to talk about They Live, because it relates to my awakening, actually.
Oh,
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm ready. Well, I'm ready. Just give it to me. Just give it to
me. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started. So, truth is, I think, something that's rare and it's hard to come by. Yeah. Like real truth. I mean, we have ideas of. I think the first step is curiosity.
Yeah.
And trying to find out more, just digging more, and just being curious and wondering and questioning.
And you have to let go your ego and realize that you don't know everything. You never will know everything.
Yeah.
And you're always going to have to just keep learning.
So Virstyne, how do you define it? How does truth? What is that for you?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is curiosity, not letting go of your ego. That's the whole thing for me. I feel like a lot of people are remain in ignorance because they're either fearful or they have an ego because they don't want to be, if they don't know something, they don't want to be presumed as being stupid. They don't want to be made wrong or down on. To me, the wisest people are the people that keep learning. They know even into their old age. Like I look at older people that are just that are constantly learning and constantly positive and open to learning from everybody and everything. I learn from my students. Like even though I'm teaching them, they teach me things too. And even my little students, the adults that I teach now, one of my favorite students, he's old enough to be my dad, but he just has this amazing curiosity about life. And he doesn't care that I'm younger, that I'm old enough to be his daughter, and I'm teaching him. So he still asks me questions. I think there's some people that they don't progress because they're afraid of asking questions. They're afraid of making mistakes. You got to be open to risk and putting yourself out there to find truth.
So it's a process. It's not something that you ever actually fully achieve. It's more like something that you're working towards every single day.
Yeah, every single day, and it's fully evolving. You can't you can't be like find one thing and be, that's truth and and then like be done with it. It's something that you're constantly chasing. You have to be open. You have to have an open mind, basically. You can't be closed to possibility. You can't be close to people. You can't be close to. You have to be very open, very curious, and let go of your ego, basically, I think, to find truth. So yeah.
What was the awakening process like for you?
Okay, so when you brought up They Live, I got really excited because before I moved to Taiwan, I was closing up my Netflix accounts maybe the week before I moved to Taiwan, and my last movie on the queue was Network. And I literally am putting Network in the envelope. I'm taking it downstairs to send it back. I just closed out my account. My neighbor comes to me and it's like, "Hey, I think you'd like this movie." And I was like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Is that a horror movie?" Like, I'm not like, and he goes, "No, you have to watch it. I just thought you'd like it for some reason. I just thought you'd like this movie." I was like, "Okay." So I watched it. And it's so funny. It still didn't really hit me until I got to Taiwan and I started having my awakening here. I feel like I was like on my way. Like the universe was sending me signals, before I came here to kind of open up. Yeah. And I remember that scene where he's trying to get the guy to put the glasses on. I was like, this is terrible direction. This scene is like way too long. That scene is forever. I was like, God, this is terrible. This is horrible. Like, why? Like, come on. Just like it could have been over like, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds. Why is it taking so damn long? But now I take that comment back. I retract my statements because he was so right. It's like that. It's like that when you're trying to get people. He's spot on. It was great directing. My bad. So anyway, and then my awakening began with a lot of things intertwined with the stuff that you were telling me and my cousin was telling me about your child and her child. I was really into Obama. I would drive around my car and listen to the Yes We Can song and like cry. And
why did you think that he was going to be like the savior? Like, what was it that made you such a big Obama fan?
Well, I thought that he seemed like he had a lot of compassion. I mean, compassion always gets me. I'm really sensitive, and I feel like these people, quote unquote, they use pathos. They use a lot of emotion, to hook people with a lot of people. Now I know that. But going back to Obama, I felt like with Bush, I just felt like he didn't care. He didn't care about anybody but himself. And he was just so arrogant and brazen, and just like idiotic that it was just embarrassing to have him as
Right.
a president. And I always make sure to tell people that how much I didn't vote for him. Like all my foreign friends, I just like, yeah, I did not vote for him. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you know. And
Right.
I was so angry, like when he cheated and got in the second time. Like I was ticked, and I cried.
Yeah.
I cried. I was so upset. And then Obama comes along, and I don't know much about him. And I remember it was between Obama and Hillary, and I remember I would get into arguments with people because people were like, "Oh, well, you're a black woman, so do you feel like you're more of a woman, or do you feel like you're more of a black person?" And for me at the time, because my family was so democratic, like my grandmother worked on the Clinton campaign, and she went to his inauguration. My grandmother was into like diehard politics. My cousins and my mom, they worked the polls, and it's always expected that I vote in the family. Voting is like really like, well, my dad doesn't vote, but like my mom and my mom's side, they're like really into like voting and stuff. So Obama comes along, and I read The Audacity of Hope, and I read Dreams from My Father, and then I start listening to him and following his interviews, and I'm like, oh God. And first of all, he's gorgeous. I'm not gonna lie. He's a very attractive man. His voice is very hypnotic, and he just has this presence. They formed him up really well. Like you're like, dang, like like he's a hottie. At him now, I mean, I don't think that, but at the time, I was so entranced by him. In addition to him being black, yes, I'm not going to say that I voted for him necessarily because he was black, but I felt like he was the right black person to vote for. Had it been Jesse Jackson, no way in Hades I would have voted for Jesse Jackson. And I just felt like he cared, and my idea of what a president should be like at the time was different. I was like, well, my idea of a president was somebody that gets the support of the people. And I was like, oh, yeah. Well, and people would say stuff, oh, he's too young, or he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I just feel like, well, he's the president. He has to have the support of the people, and he has advisors. He has an administration to help him, so he's not going to be making all the decisions. And little do I know how right that statement was at the time.
Right.
At the time, I'm just thinking, I'm thinking, but the Bush has their administration, and then Obama has his administration, and they're going to come in, and they're gonna do things, and they're going to turn things around. And I was all hung. I think a lot of people still are hung up on like the savior. And I actually listened to, before we started doing this today, I re-listened to the Yes We Can speech, because I was just like, why was I? And I still honestly, I have to admit, I still honestly got really full listening to it, but not because it was him saying it. It was just the words that that he preached. He preached about stuff that we really want, like a future that we really want to envision for ourselves, how we see the future for our children, but he says all that stuff and he's like lies. He does like the opposite if you go,
Right.
So he, I think a lot of people rallied around him because they felt like that. At the core of the the Yes We Can speech, this is what we really want as a human race, as human beings. And preaches unity and love and coming together and all this stuff. So he preached all that stuff, and then he's just like psych. He's like psych, and then
I can say that I remember when we were talking about these things and we were going through this, that was one of the hardest things for you to accept.
Yeah.
The understanding that maybe he wasn't who you thought he was supposed to be. It seemed like it was a painful experience.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's weird because I don't even know the man, and
right.
I wrote this article and about it once I started, writing about like my awakening process, and I sent it to my parents, and my parents were like very, very disturbed and very upset, and
yeah.
And it's hard too because racism just runs so deep in this country, and it runs deep everywhere. But I mean, in America, well, I mean,
yeah.
So, and it hurts too because I think when Obama was elected, there are a lot of people that put their history and their past and their like apologies that they felt like they needed to have on Obama. And they just put so much onto him that they're like, okay, I remember a black friend of mine was like, this is before election day we were talking. He was like, tomorrow's finally going to be the day that we're going to like get compensation for the way that we've been treated in this country.
Right.
And people want it to people they're going to be like, this is the guy that's going to show the world who black people can be. Who who we really are, as opposed to all of the dirty like booty butt cheek videos and just black people there.
Right.
He was very classy, and he had a perfect family, and his daughters are really cute, and he was perfect in every way, And there are a lot of white people, honestly, I shouldn't say just white people, I should say non-black people that have a problem, still have a problem with the black man being president in the United States. And you want to prove those people wrong. You want to you don't want them to be right, and they're not really right about him. It's more about the system. And my beef isn't really even more about Obama. It's about the system, because you realize how every president pretty much after Kennedy has been a puppet of some sort. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember people would say, I remember I had another friend who's black who was like, well, the thing about Obama is I'm just afraid if he gets elected, he's going to become another puppet, and people are going to place everything onto him. And I was like, what? He's not dumb. Because I think of puppet, I think of somebody that's dumb and not,
right.
And now that I understand the concept puppet too, it's like they basically he's in agreement of being a puppet, I think now. Well, maybe, I don't know.
We don't know.
I don't really know him. I don't know what's in his heart. I don't know if he's a Manchurian candidate. I don't know if he had good intentions. And was corrupted. I don't know. If they're like, we're gonna kill your kids and your family if you don't do what we say. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know. There's so many different factors, that possibilities as to why this is happening. But then you start looking at stuff like he hired. And it's funny. I wasn't even looking for dirt on Obama that led me to not liking Obama anymore. But I was looking at stuff like Monsanto, like how you were saying, like you start following stuff and like the threads just all like start to connect. I start looking at Tom Vilsack, who was an advocate for Monsanto, and how he placed him as agriculture secretary. And I was like, why would you do that, Obama? And then what else did he do? I think there was he let people drill for oil off the shore, and he promised he wouldn't do that, and it's like, why would you do that, Obama? Then he was like, no more war, and he gets the Nobel Peace Prize without doing anything. And I remember having a conversation. My friend's like, "Don't you think that's weird that he got the Nobel Peace Prize and he didn't do anything?" I was like, "Oh my God, he's Obama, duh! Like, chill out. Like he's gonna, like he has it. He's got this.
Knows what he's doing.
Chill back. Just wait for it. Just wait. And and then we're in like we're in Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Pakistan. We're in like 5 wars at least, maybe more. Who knows?
We've all lost count.
Yeah,
so many.
It's like at least 5, and
at least, yeah.
The other one with Iran. It's like, and then now he signs the NDAA, the Detention Act, and I call it the Detention Act, but the NDAA basically, and
the Indefinite Detention Act.
Yeah.
And he does all these executive orders.
He's out with. Like, why is he hanging out with, like, eugenicists? Like, he has advisors that are, like... And people that are listening that are, might be offended about what I say, you can look this up. Like call my bluff. Call my bluff, look it up, because I can't even say his name. Zbigniew Brzezinski, Rockefellers, like, they are some, like, pretty, like, evil guys. Like, why is he, like, hanging out with him? Why are they advising him,
Yeah.
So, I know, but you know what? I got over it, because at the end of the day, it was painful, but I'm done. Because at the end of the day, I love humans, I love people, and it's they're very smart by putting a black person in, because also I think that the world is it showed the world diversity, and people they're like, oh, the United States is going to be open, and I don't know. I mean, I'm just over it though. I'm done. I don't even know how I feel about the system anymore. But he's doing, and he went to war without Congress's approval, and
like over and over again. Like just anyway.
I'm just done. Done. I'm done with the system. I'm not even. I like Ron Paul too. I think he's great. I don't know. I don't know if he'll get the nomination. I don't know if I'm going to vote for him. I don't know, because I see it's all the shim sham on the whim wham. I know it's all rigged now. So and I'm not like sad. I feel like I tell people I'm not going to vote anymore, and people are like, "Oh, but you have to vote." Like all the black people in slavery, but like the slaves, they fought for the right to vote. I'm like, well, they also fought for the right to read, so maybe you should like try to do the same, like, like I hate that. Like, come on, like, come on, dude, really? You're gonna like put the on me? Really? We're slaves now. How about that?
Yeah, no, we're indentured servitude. I mean,
definitely. So
we're all we're a nation of debtors. I mean, that's what we are now, and and it's interesting. I saw this guy on YouTube he was a supporter of Ron Paul as a black man, and he was saying how people are they propagandized that he was a racist. That was how they were going to try and get him out. But if you really look at the policy, he's actually less racist than Obama, because Obama's continuing the war on drugs. He's continuing all these overseas military, which affects the black community more so than the white community.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's really, I mean, by policy, he's actually not doing much for the black man or woman at all.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I don't know. I mean, like you say,
but he's good at basketball.
Right. Yeah, so
that's bad. But it's
right. And I was always I resented how Michelle Obama would come out and talk about their organic garden, and then yet they have Monsanto running things in the FDA and the Department of Agriculture. Yeah. And so the rest of us have to eat GMO, but you guys get to have organic?
They're like, of course you do, because we're the Obamas. I'm like, of course.
That made me mad.
But of course. Anyway, so I don't know.
So that was one.
I'm sorry. You on?
I was just going to continuing asking about your awakening, because it wasn't just that. I mean, that was one of the things that caused you to sort of see things differently, but it was also personal experiences with your own health issues and learning about raw food diets. So why don't you tell us about that?
Okay, so I'm not a raw foodist. I'm just a vegetarian right now who eats a lot of raw food. But, and it's funny, with you going with the vaccines, the more I find out about vaccines, I wonder if vaccines was the cause of my illness, because when I was younger, because I was diagnosed with asthma, but when I was 13 months old. And I think that's when you get another round of injections. I don't know. I haven't really checked into the stats on that, but it was about 13 months that I had asthma. I was diagnosed with asthma, so I was asthmatic, and I was just allergic to everything. Like, I was literally bubble girl. I couldn't go around trees or grass. I couldn't walk around. I couldn't take my shoes off and run around barefoot in grass, or I'd break out. Yeah. Or I couldn't be around trees. I couldn't eat dairy. I still actually can't eat dairy, but it used to be worse when I was younger, and I couldn't eat a lot of food and types of foods, and I spent my Saturday mornings going to get allergy shots to build up my immunity, because my immune system was just like jacked. And I've literally had pneumonia maybe about 4 or 5 times, and I've had bronchitis maybe about the same amount of times. I've had scarlet fever twice, strep throat, and I'm like, scarlet fever? I remember getting that. I'm like, scarlet fever? Isn't that like in the movies? Like, people don't like, it was just, anyway. I would literally get the flu like one week out of every month. I was always getting sick. If somebody had a cold or something, I would get it. It was like bam, But as I got older, allergies got better, but I wonder if it had to do with me taking certain things out of my diet, and then but my asthma got worse as I got older, and I had a couple of times where I was rushed to the hospital. I actually thought I was going to die, and as I got older, that prompted me to do research into ways that I can cure my asthma. But when I would do research, it would just be like, I would try and find herbs, and at that time the internet wasn't as big as it was now, so I would ask around and I would hear people. I remember I saw this classical music concert. I volunteered one night to see a show, and there was this lady there from like Argentina, and she told me about this herb, and I forgot the name of it, but I tried looking for it and I never could find it. Or I found it, I forgot what it was. I found it, and I tried to use it, but I don't think it really worked. And I was like, God, no, I'm never gonna get asthma. And asthma, people say that the doctors are just like, you're just gonna have to live with it, and the medications that they put you on are so it's bad for your heart. I've actually known two people to die, one of an actual asthma attack, and one that was sick, that had heart problems, that from the complications of the medicines that she was on because of her asthma. And usually the thing about having asthma, I resent movies sometimes because they just make it seem like it's so simple. People are like, they're like wheezing, and then they reach for the inhaler and they take a puff, and that's okay. And sometimes that's the case. But sometimes you can have something that triggers it, and nobody knows what it could be. You can have something that triggers your asthma, and you could die. Like the times that I had an asthma attack and I was rushed to the hospital, my inhaler just didn't work for some reason for that day. My inhaler wasn't enough. And I'm like literally like crawling on the floor, like, crying and like gasping and I'm thinking I'm going to die. My mom's like crying, and I get rushed to the hospital. And the only thing they can really do is just pump you full of medication and like hope that it works. They don't really like you just sitting there like with the oxygen tank. You're sitting there with this thing down your like they or they can give you maybe injections and stuff, but they can't like open you up. They just like stick you with stuff and hope for the best. Right. They stick stuff in your body and your orifices and just hope for the best, and you never really know. So I'm allergic to cats still, really really bad, and I always carry allergy medication with me, like in my car when I'm in Los Angeles. Because, I just don't know. And I feel like a lot of my friends don't really understand. They think I'm being picky or crazy because, or neurotic. But I'm like, it's something I don't stress out about all the time, but it's always in the back of my mind, So then one day, flash forward to college, and maybe my senior year, I'm waking up like having headaches and feeling depressed, like I've been drinking and hungover. I would wake up feeling hungover, and I'd be like, but I'm not drinking. Why am I feeling like I'm, hungover? So I'm going to the doctor. I'm like, I have something. I don't know. Like, and the doctors they're like, you're fine. Your test came back negative, and your blood work is fine. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, I know it's not in my head. People like to tell you, it's in your head. Like, no, it's not. Like, I really don't want to be sick. I'm not getting anything out of being sick and feeling like crap. So something's wrong with me. So I remember coming back to LA and doing extra work. Remember extra work?
Oh, yeah.
So we're doing extra work, and I meet this lady from New York, and she's awesome. I was just telling her, and she's like, you need to go to a homeopath or naturopath. And I was like, okay, I'll try anything. And so I go to naturopath, and he's like, do a food diary. And I was like, what? He goes, no, just write down everything that you eat for like a week and then come back to me. I was like, what? That was like the craziest thing I've ever heard. And then he looks at it and he's like, you're addicted to sugar. He goes, that's okay. Most people are. Find out ways to, and so I start doing research about how to get sugar into my diet or out of my diet or how it affects my diet. So I read this one book. I forgot. Her name is Catherine something, and she's the lady that wrote Potatoes Not Prozac. But it's anyway, she talks about sugar and the effect that it has on the brain. And anyway, I took out sugar from my diet. Saw a huge improvement in a lot of stuff. And I'm not completely off of sugar, but I'm definitely, I'm not eating like nearly the amount of sugar I used to eat. And the thing is, I mean, I don't have weight issues. I have really fast metabolism. So I never really watched what I ate because I was worried about my weight, especially since I've been older. Because I was younger, I couldn't eat a lot of stuff when I was a kid. So once I got out and moved out of my parents' house, I just went crazy. I would have like chips and cookies and things like that. So I wasn't gaining weight, but it was affecting me in different ways. Like it's funny because I feel like people are never really really escape from eating bad food. It gets you something.
Yeah. Right.
So so I took that out. Huge difference in how I slept, the clarity of my thought, and then one day I was at the library and I turned around and I see this book on raw food. It was literally like, I'm not kidding, like, you turn around, there are like tables and stuff, and I was like, and it was funny because I was like, sometimes I like to go to the library and I just want to learn something new, so I'll just be like, okay, any book that I see, I turn around, the first book I lay eyes on, I'm just going to pick it up, I'm going to read it. And it was a book on raw food. And I took the book. It was Giuliano's Raw, and he happened to have a restaurant in Santa Monica. So I went to the restaurant with my friend, and then I got his book, and I started experimenting, and just saw huge differences. Oh, and my friend gave me a book on the Botanco family, and the Green for Life smoothies. They do green smoothies, and I do green smoothies, and anyway, so all of that started tying together. So then once I started doing research into raw foods, it starts tying into Monsanto. Then it starts tying into Agenda 21. Then it starts tying into eugenics. Then it started, like all the threads, all the roads lead back to the same thing, and you start to connect the dots, and you see how everything works in a synergistic but very evil way. In a malicious, like, synergistic way, and then I start listening to Alex Jones. I remember you actually got me into Alex Jones because I was like, why are you? Because you send me audio clips. And I was like, why are you sending me audio clips of Rush Limbaugh? I don't like it. I didn't know, that you're like, it's not Rush Limbaugh. I was like, all right, I'll listen. And he was amazing. And, he definitely educated me a lot about a lot of stuff. But, I would just literally listen to him, and I would get a pencil and paper and just be like, some stuff he would say, but like, oh, come on, for real? And then I would look it up, and I'm like, dang!
That's true.
Like, shut up. It was like, he would say something, and I'm like, oh, come on, whatever. And they're like, dang!
Yeah.
So, and then, just finding people on the internet and reading, and it becomes very, what's the word, addictive, like you said, but at the same time, I think it's a healthy addiction. I'm not out like smoking crack. Not that that's, I'm not judging people that smoke crack, but smoking crack's really not healthy. So, it's, and then I lost, I had a fight with a friend talking about losing friends. I had a fight with a friend that was, that didn't agree. I sent the Bill Gates video out to people, and she was like offended, and her and her boyfriend were like offended, and just kind of started treating me differently. We actually I defriended them over some other stuff, over the Gardasil shot, I think, when I was trying to talk about the bill that was passed in California that lets children get vaccinated without their parents' permission. And I was just really thinking about my children, my friends that have children or nieces or nephews and stuff, and they just didn't want to hear it. And I had a couple of friends that just defriended me, and because of some of the stuff that I post on my wall. And it's okay though. I don't care.
Well, you're okay with it now, but initially it was hard.
It was hard. I had to write essays about it to get it up in the system. I had to I don't hold on to stuff. I had to find some catharsis somewhere. So, it was painful, and there's still I'm sure you have your ups and downs. I'm not like dancing the jig of joy right now, but I'm not. I don't really care what people think. I feel like my conviction is too strong to care about what people think if I know that I'm doing or saying the right thing. You know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember we talked about this a lot because in the beginning it's kind of hard to just throw everything at people, and then you throw things out there, and then some people are going to run away and not want to be your friend anymore and not like you. And you had this problem with these friends of yours over, I mean, it was really over the vaccine issue, because they were very pro-vaccination, and you were obviously learning about vaccines and becoming educated and not really trusting that anymore. And even your own experience, you used to get flu shots yourself.
Yeah.
Remember, you didn't even say that you felt that you were sick afterwards?
Yeah, I was like, how come I got the flu and I just got the flu shot?
Exactly.
I always get the flu after the flu shot. I'm like, isn't the purpose of getting the flu shot not to get the flu? And they're like, oh, it's just I'm like, but I have the flu. Like, why?
I know, and it's amazing people's suspension of disbelief. It's like that you can sit there and go, I got the flu after I got the flu shot. It doesn't work, or it makes me worse. And they're going, oh, but it's not the flu shot.
It's not really the flu. Like, you really didn't get the flu. People would tell me that. I remember going to the doctor after I got my flu shot and be like, I'm sick, I have the flu. Oh, you really don't have the flu. But I'm like vomiting and coughing, and I have a fever, and
Right. Feels like the flu. If it
it's like,
looks like a duck and quacks like a duck,
yeah,
it's probably a
like,
duck.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like totally. I remember that. Like, oh, whack.
Yeah.
Just whackness. Just a sham on the whim wham. We just
total sham on the whim wham.
We need to I don't know. We need to get over all of our isms. We need to get over the racism, all the other things that divide and conquer us, and just get it together. Get it together.
And then and that's kind of what we're doing here, is that we wanted to do something positive. We want to do something where we can meet more people and share our experiences in hopes that people will talk about theirs. And following our bliss, like we talked about that as one of our inspirations to kind of make it stay positive in this thing. It's just sort of following your bliss, and we're addicted to this. We're going to do it anyway. So we might as well spin it into something positive in doing our research and finding all this stuff and share it with.
Definitely. That's
what we want to do. That's so how do you find that you stay positive in that? I mean, is part of it is, I know it's what we mentioned, following our bliss. So what are some of the things you do?
I listen to stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
I do the things that I want to do. Like I find my joy with my friends and my family members, but the ones I do like. I find my joy with that. I find the joy. I just try and find joy in everything. I don't really. I make sure I have time for myself just to have fun. I think that's very important, because I feel like we've become a nation of workaholics. Even here, people, a lot of foreigners are coming here to teach English, but they're working all the time. And I'm like, you're in a foreign country. There's people that don't speak the same languages. There's different kinds of plants and insects and animals, and you're just going to work 40 hours a week to save money so you can go home and do the same thing? Why?
Right.
Well, and I'm not saving a mess actually right now, but I have definitely had time to work on my writing and work on myself and learn Chinese and do some things that I've been wanting to do, and it's made me live more simply, or simpler. Is simply a word? Simpler. Yeah, because when I left, I had to give up my apartment in Los Angeles, and I just gave away a lot of my stuff, and it was a really good feeling. I just gave away some of the stuff I sold, I think I only actually sold my bed, but everything else that I didn't need, I gave away. And then my mom has some of my stuff, but I literally had to let a lot of stuff go, and it was very freeing, actually. So, yeah. And I don't have a lot of stuff here. I mean, I'm a nerd, so I have a lot of books. I even bought books in Chinese, and I'm going to learn how to read one day. I'm like, I want to, but But other than that, I don't really. I mean, I just got TV. I don't. After I've been here almost 2 years, I bought TV. I had cable like 2 or 3 months ago, and that's just to help me get familiar with Chinese and listen to Chinese. And I have to make I don't like watching TV. I have to make myself watch TV and be like, okay, and I'll watch like SpongeBob in Chinese and Chowder. Chowder, do you know Chowder? The like the
yeah.
the purple rabbit beaver thing. What is that? What is that? I don't know.
It's just chowder. That's just all it is.
In Chinese, it's chowder. Hyman Biao Biao. SpongeBob. I watch Hyman Biao Biao. I do. I have no shame because I mean it's slow and it's easy and they use simple vocabulary. I'm in a beginning stage right now, so I need to.
So obviously, like some of the things that we've done to kind of combat this awakening process, as far as not taking it too seriously and not kind of living in the muck and the murk of the depressing factor of it all, is to maintain a sense of humor and to not, even though we care about these issues and we take it seriously, we take this life seriously, we don't take ourselves seriously. We kind of like to poke fun at ourselves and even like the whole theatrics of everything. I mean, it's much of it is very tragic, but some of it is just theater and drama.
Ridiculous.
And it's ridiculous. It's like, we killed Osama bin Laden and he's floating off to sea. It's like, oh God.
You're
really?
like, what? Get out. No, you know what's funny? You know what made me laugh? I'm sorry. I was back to something else. Restless leg syndrome. Remember that? Remember restless leg syndrome? Yeah. I was like, get out of town. Really? I thought it was like one of those Saturday Night Live commercials that they make. But it was like a real commercial. He's like, help, honey, my legs are shaking and I can't stop it. Oh, you need this pill that gives you like diarrhea, bleeding eyes, and impotence. But you're like, but damn, I just really want my legs to stop shaking. Like, I don't need all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It's like
it's just insane. It's just yeah. Once you start saying all the stuff, it's so ridiculous, you know. And it was the comedian Cat Williams who did that bit on when he did that bit on pharmaceuticals. He was talking about giving his son Ritalin.
Yes.
And then but the thing that was so funny was he was talking about how, you know, they have a commercial and they're like, oh, this cures restless leg syndrome, but it's going to cause, you know, bleeding from the eyes and diarrhea and everything else. And then he said, and then a few weeks later, you see the quiet commercial. They're like, do you or a loved one suffer after taking this pill for restless leg syndrome?
Yeah.
And it's like, he's all, call 1-800-RBAD, but it's...
Or they'll just advertise another pill to get rid of, like, the other symptoms or something like that.
Right, and then you have another pill to get rid of the other symptoms. I mean, all these new diseases and disorders, and it's just insane. But at some point, it's just, it's so much on top of so much that you got to start to just see it for the show and the spectacle and the theater that it is and laugh a little bit. Otherwise, what are you going to do, you know?
And
so
answers to a lot of these problems are so simple. It's so simple that it's hard. It's like, eat healthy.
Yeah.
It's
right.
Clean water, you know? Don't...
Exactly.
Just don't bomb people.
Right.
You know?
Don't go over and bomb people. Don't print money out of nothing.
Yeah.
Don't, you know? Just don't do these very simple things. And, you know, it's so true.
Don't believe everything you hear on TV.
Exactly. Don't watch TV.
Yeah.
Just turn it off.
You're like,
unless you're learning Chinese, of course. Anyway.
Oh, God. Yeah, but even still, like, that's annoying because I'm getting, like, brainwashed in Chinese.
Not by SpongeBob, though. Really? In Chowder?
It's
brainwashing?
Like commercials and stuff. And,
oh, yeah.
Like, Hyman Baba Chowder. Yeah, but...
Okay, well, now we're just getting silly. So, I think that's kind of wraps it up, doesn't it? We have Truth or Talk. It's going to be our weekly show, and we have some guests coming up in the next few weeks. We're going to have a guest come in and talk to us about vaccines and autism. She is an author, and so we want to ask her about that and her own personal experience and her the things that she's written about in her book about how to effectively treat it naturally and holistically using traditional and non-traditional methods. So that will be coming up real soon. We're excited about that. And then our other guest that we have lined up is a journalist, and he was the inspiration for our first article of clothing, which will be available also within the next week or so at truthertees.com. You will be able to buy our first T-shirt. We're going to have a bunch of those, and each one's going to have a story attached. They all have a message, a meaning, something behind it. We will attach that to the website where you can read about it, look it up yourself. We'll have links attached and everything. Funny stuff. We like to post pictures of animals with guns. For some reason, we're obsessed with that right now.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's really funny. We've got the whole. We call them the New World Order
Army. Yes.
And then the leader is the kitty.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So she's going to lead us all to
victory.
So we're hoping. Just to put this out there, a bug out there. We want somebody to come on our show and talk about Bilderberg. We don't have anything lined up to do that yet, but we hope we can. Bilderberg meetings are happening this weekend, which is, if you guys don't know what that is, look that up. Those are secret meetings that a lot of the leaders. Well, it's not so secret anymore. I guess everybody's finding out about it.
Yeah.
But it used to be. We don't get.
There's still the thing that there's still not a lot of people that understand why it's illegal. Yeah. So I think we need to clarify that and talk about why it's illegal, why it's a bad thing. People don't get that. So
so we want to talk about that. We hope that somebody can talk about that and come on our show and talk about it. If not, I guess we'll
do it.
Have to do it ourselves. We'll do it ourselves.
Frack it. We'll do it.
Yeah, frack it. It'll be our show. It's our show. We'll do whatever we want. Okay, so that pretty much does it for me. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No. Thank you for tuning in. We hope to hear a lot from you, or we hope to hear from you soon. And enjoy. And thanks for peace, truth, and love.
Peace, truth, and love. Till next time.
Bye bye.